Grinding concrete is one of the messiest things you can do indoors because it creates a ton of airborne dust. I bought a $30 kit on Amazon that fits onto a standard 4.5-inch grinder, and it promises to minimize the dust with the help of a shop vac. And in this video, I'm gonna test it out. The first step to install it is to adjust the hose clamp to your specific grinder. And that's easiest to do by first removing the hose clamp from the shroud itself. I'm using a very standard 4.5-inch grinder from DeWalt. And contrary to popular belief, based on my dislike for Milwaukee's heated jacket, I'm not a DeWalt tool rep. I have no affiliation with DeWalt at all. Lightly snug the screws on the shroud, but leave them loose enough so that you can slide it to adjust. Add in the hose clamp from before, start tightening the shroud screws and the hose clamp. I noticed one of the shroud screws can't actually be tightened once it's installed on the grinder, so I had to pull it back off and tighten that one first, then put it back on and get the other two. A minor design flaw, but I made it through okay. Spin on the large nut supplied in the kit, and using the lock button on the grinder, snug it up using the provided tool. It's time to install the supplied diamond cup wheel, and it's held in place with another supplied nut. Make sure that it's tight. You don't want this thing getting away from you. After I finished, I noticed that my shroud wasn't sitting very level compared to my cup wheel. I ended up loosening the screw on the hose clamp and adjusting the tilt of the shroud so that both the shroud and the cutting wheel were level. The universal vacuum hose connector slides onto the intake tube, and you can see by the step design that's made to work with many different sizes of vacuum hose. That's essentially the setup process. It's fairly simple and straightforward. For safety protection, I'm gonna be using safety glasses, hearing protection, and despite the product's claims of being dust-free, I'm gonna wear a particulate respirator just in case. Call me skeptical, but I don't fully trust most of the products that I buy from Amazon, especially at the $30 price point. You'll notice that I'm not wearing gloves for this, and that's because gloves could get caught in the wheel and actually pull my hand into the spinning grinder. The use of gloves and rotary equipment is somewhat controversial. Let me know what you think in the comments, yay or nay on glove use. So for my personal project, I'm gonna be grinding down a lip on the block that sticks up. I'm gonna be milling it down so that it's level with the floor on each side so that I can lay flooring across the top. With my vacuum running, I started grinding, and for half a second it seemed like it was going okay-ish. But quickly it started getting really dusty and things started going horribly wrong. For starters, the area that I'm trying to grind isn't great for a dust-free experience because it's not level with the floor. It's a raised edge. The block is uneven, so the shroud couldn't really shield the area all that well. For the tool to work its best, the shroud has to sit flat and tight against what you're grinding so that none of the dust can escape and leak out the sides. And my project was anything but that. Secondly, the filter on my vacuum got packed full of dust almost immediately, and I began to lose suction fairly rapidly. Of course, I didn't realize this necessarily because I was grinding. I'm really glad that I had my respirator in place because my grinding project turned into a massive cleanup project. That dust got everywhere. Now, I did hang plastic and close doors, you know, all the obvious stuff that you would do, but that dust, once it's airborne, just seems to travel throughout the house, and it made a pretty huge mess. The dust-free tool didn't really work all that great for me at all, but the diamond cup wheel actually was pretty awesome, and I did get the concrete lip ground down to be flat with the floor, which is what I wanted. The tool does have the potential to work better, and if I were to use it again, I would do two things differently. Number one, try to use the shroud on a flat, level surface because the shroud needs to stay tight to the concrete to control the dust. Number two, I'd remove the filter from the vacuum completely because that just clogged for me. And then I'd set the vacuum outside somewhere and I'd run a vacuum hose in through a window. That would keep all the dust outside and it would keep the vacuum pulling hard throughout the whole process. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, think about subscribing to the channel. I've got more tool review content coming soon. My wife was like so mad that I made such a big mess. Like, she was really upset. So for the safety of your marriage, again, don't make the mistake that I did. Yeah.